El Camino People, Episode 10. Hi everyone and welcome to El Camino People, the podcast. Today with you, Jose Mari, your pilgrim friend from Pamplona. I have great news for all of you, for the ones waiting for the Camino, the ones asking about what's gonna happen, with the Camino Santiago right now with this whole coronavirus situation. We have a lot of information, but also we want to encourage everyone to be clear with there's a lot of things going on Facebook, on Instagram, social media, all over about what's gonna happen with the Camino, and there is a lot of unknowns, so we have to stay and look for truthful information. We don't want to spread any rumors or any misinformation. So the information that I'm going to pass you all right now is what has been passed to us by the Spanish government. So right now, Spain was on phase 0 till a week ago. We were on May 10th. That's the day we ended phase 0, and we entered into phase 1. What does it mean, phase 1? The things like we are going to be able to go out and walk, open, the churches, the museums are going to be open, but under less people allowed into every space. Also, our locals, we are allowed to go out and exercise, but we can only exercise in our city. We cannot go farther than that. But people that live in villages, they are allowed to go. So that means, that the Camino is going to start getting at least, local people to walk in and through the Camino. So, and we are one step closer of being able to go back. What are we gonna be looking forward? We are gonna be looking forward to phase 2. That's gonna happen in 15 days from day 11, so that will be in day 26. And hopefully by day 2, there's gonna be a big increase in the amount of people that can go into churches, museums, restaurants. The way we're gonna be able to exercise, we may be able to exercise inside of our community. Still, we are not allowed to go into any other states, so that means that no crossing. So still the Camino is only available for people on their own states, on their own cities, and of course nothing for international travels yet. Once we get to phase 3, and this is all if the sanitary conditions, and the spread of the virus continues as it is. Right now we are going really low on new people getting infected, and deaths are going to the minimum, in all this time during the coronavirus. So the best we can hope is by the middle of June, the situation will go back to normality. What does it mean, normality? And it's not gonna be normal. There's gonna be a lot of new measures that people are gonna have to be taken care of, and still, for international travelers, we don't know. Right now, the borders of Spain are still closed by foot. Spain, France, and Portugal are closed. We know that international travelers right now can travel to Spain, but if you arrive to Spain, you are supposed to stay for 2 weeks under quarantine in your house or in a hotel. So if you're a pilgrim that are thinking about coming right now, you are gonna be stuck in the place you arrival for 14 days, and also you're not gonna be able to walk farther than the whole state that you arrive. So right now, at least till the middle of June, there's no option of walking the Camino unless you're local in any Spanish state. So when do we think people will be allowed to travel? So still is an unknown. The government is thinking about opening, that maybe things will be open by July, but still everything is gonna be really depending on how the situation evolves. We don't know a lot about this virus, so right now the numbers are pointing towards the middle of June, end of June for a big opening, but still we don't know what is going to be the international measures about international travelers coming in and from Spain. So for now on, that's all the information we can pass. We know that a lot of people are still fighting this, and the albergues are going to be fighting, so we ask you to go, give a call, send a message to give your support to all those little albergues. It doesn't matter, they are private, if they are donativo, all of them, they need our help, and they are more than willing. Just a couple of few words will make the difference for them right now. So anyway, with no more time to lose, today we want to introduce you As he's a pilgrim, but he's a worldwide pilgrim. He didn't walk the Camino as walking the Camino, but he's been walking all over the world with his great project. His name is Tom, and he's on a project of walking the whole world. He is on a journey, a 5-year journey of walking all around the world. And when he came to Spain, he decided not to walk the Camino de Santiago, but he did walk part of what it is, and he met a lot of pilgrims. So we will talk to him about how does it pilgrimage so different all around the world, because he did a pilgrimage. In my opinion, his whole Camino was for a really really deep reason, and I think it's worth for you to discover it. So feel cozy, grab a beer, to go outside or just go for a run, whatever you like to do when you listen to a podcast, and be ready to listen to El Camino People, the podcast interviewing Tom. So welcome one more time to El Camino People, the podcast. Today we are talking with a pilgrim, but a different kind of pilgrim. He's not a pilgrim of the Camino. I will call him a pilgrim of life. Welcome, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Jose.
So maybe you knew him. He's active in Instagram. His name is The World Walk. And I came out with Tom's story a little bit about a couple of months ago. And I was reading about one day he decided to walk around the world. And a lot of people, when we see all these influencers and people walking, they do it the cool way, from hotel to hotel, or they do it on the fancy way, 1 year, gap year, traveling around the world. But for Tom, it was different. He decided to trek, to walk all around the world. And the thing that intrigued me the most was the reason. When we talk about Camino, everybody has, we say that the Camino, you don't decide to do the Camino, the Camino decides to call you. And in your case, I think it was the same, Tom. No, as I was reading your website, you have your call when you were 17 and something happened in your life, no?
Yeah, so like you were saying, and just the Camino. So by the time I reached the Camino, I had been walking for about 2.5 years. But yeah, when I was 17, I had a friend who passed away, and it was very formative. Obviously, I was close with her, and she was a very good person. So when she passed, it was a real shock to the system, and I realized that I was going to go, and it could happen at any minute. So I needed to live a full, immersive life. And so, it took me 8 years of saving, working. And eventually, by the time I was 25, I had enough money saved up that I thought I could walk from New Jersey in the U.S. all the way down to Argentina. And my plan in general was to walk on every continent, walk around the world, and cover about 25,000 miles.
Wow. No, so not like living or going to a hotel, just walk to every country. And so far you have almost made it. And like you've been already even in Antarctica, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So I was the 8th person to walk the Americas. Savannah, my dog, was the first dog to walk the Americas.
Wow.
And soon she'll be the first dog to walk around the world. But yeah, we did Antarctica. So we covered North America, South America, Antarctica, Europe, and now we left off in Georgia. So we crossed Turkey, entered Georgia, and over the next year I'll walk from Georgia up to Mongolia, head down to Australia, walk Australia, and then walk across the U.S. So still 2 more years to go. It's been about 4 years of walking so far, and so far so good.
So tell us a little bit. Like your friend passed away when you guys were 17, but why walking? I have friends that passed away when we were younger, and now this is getting more common with different diseases and stuff. But were you really into hiking? Were you guys runners? Were you in the track team? Was there something that you have talked with your friends? How does the idea of walking, when you are 17, becomes a reality of walking the whole world when you are 25? I'm like, how would you go from one point to the other?
Sure. I never was much of a hiker, honestly. I think I'd hiked, even before leaving, the longest hike I'd done was like 10 days. But I knew I could figure it out as I went. But the reason walking around the world became the idea was just because that's kind of my personality. I've always wanted to just be out there, away from things. Like, for example, when I'm driving in a car, I remember as a kid driving in the car and looking out to wheat fields or something. I'd always imagine myself just out in that field somewhere. I like that feeling of just being separate and away from everything. And so I think there was that calling initially that started me searching for basically cheap ways to travel because I was in high school. I didn't have any money. And I discovered a guy in the 70s and a couple other people who had walked around the world. And then it just fit my personality, I guess. And it stuck in my head. And then the more I thought about it, and as I grew up and I rested on the idea through college and then after college and had to make some decisions on where I wanted to go with my life, it seemed like a really great way to live because it's so immersive that even on a bicycle, you can skip by places. If somewhere sketchy, you can kind of go through there quick, or you can even do a detour to a nicer place if it's 25 miles out of the way. Not that most people are going to do it, but you could do a little detour relatively easily. Whereas walking, I am where I am, and I have to see the world as it is, good and bad and ugly. So I thought it'd be the most immersive way to live a full life.
Yeah, and from going, I'm like, if I'm right, you have a major in psychology, so
yeah, psychology and philosophy,
and philosophy. So that fits perfectly with the whole thing of traveling the world and everything. But how did your friends, your community, your family, and yourself? I'm like, when you get to a point, I've been living also abroad and having a group of friends or having a family or a partner or whatever, it became such a hard thing. But in your case, you decided to travel for a full 3 years just with your dog. So how does it fit you, how your person changes, how you grow as a person, but also what are the pros, the cons, probably you have your down days that you're all the way far away from home. And if anyone reads your blog, you will find, there's some days that you were like, what the heck I'm doing here.
Sure.
But
yeah, definitely the pros outweigh the cons. I think it's a great lifestyle, and I think anyone who has done the Camino has a taste of it, where it's really nice to just walk for hours each day. It's very meditative. I know that's the reason a lot of people do the Camino is as a sort of mental, emotional cleanse. And I'm just doing the same thing, but on a larger scale. I had walked for about a year and a half, and when I was in Peru and in Chile, when you're walking, you turn over your thoughts and you meditate on your life and you look back on things and you're able to resolve these issues that you don't really know are there. I always thought of it as you're kind of weeding the garden. So you have this, your house and then this big garden outside, and you don't realize it because you just walk out the front door, but you have all these weeds in your garden. And when you're walking, you're just sitting there pulling weeds. And when I was in Peru, one day I looked around and I realized I didn't have any weeds in the garden anymore, and I had nothing else to think about. I had resolved all my issues. So that part of it is incredible, and I think has been incredibly beneficial to my life, to my peace of mind, just to my general outlook on things. But to get to that point, you have to give up a lot. I worked summers and I worked for years out of school. And I lived at home and I saved and I just worked and worked and worked. And then I ended things with a girlfriend that I had for 4 years, and we might have gotten married, who knows? But this is something that kind of predated her and something that was stuck in my head for years. And then even I'm still going. I'm 30 years old and I'm still going. And I have friends who are having kids and having a family, and that has its benefits too. But you have to put that off. I think it's okay. I don't have any problem with that, but it's probably not for everyone either. I think you have to have a certain personality. You have to have a certain grit to be out there on your own every day in these new situations. And just the daily grind is difficult. And next year is going to be very difficult for me going up to Mongolia. It's going to be a difficult landscape to cover, and I'll be isolated a lot of the time. But if it's what you want to do enough, nothing's going to stop you.
I agree. I agree 100% with you. Nowadays I think that walking is the most healing thing. It's been proved. There's already many people that it's walking the Camino or any other of the many Caminos in the world just to get back, that your normal day. And I love the metaphor of of weeding the garden. I think that's why when people ask me why do I run, why do I do the Camino, and I get this, for me it's my reset. Going back to to your normal person, and I wish I could have the time of the strength, because what you're doing is really, from somebody that has a lot of strength, just deciding to walk and putting everything on hold just for the reason is, it's really respectful, and a lot of people wouldn't understand it. I guess, it's like the Camino. If you don't do it, you don't get it. It's one of the things that there's no way to explain. You just have to do it.
I think a lot of it too is people think that they work these jobs or whatever it may be. They're trying to set themselves up to live later, but you're living right now. Whatever you're doing right now, that's your life. And if you're working, a full-time job that you really don't like, and you're thinking, all right, maybe in 15 years I'll be able to set myself up to go do something. So you're doing it right now. You made your choice kind of thing. And so I try to just go directly as possible. What would I do in, my dream life, and be travel and have these crazy experiences and meet locals, and just try to make it as direct as get to that right away. And I think the Camino is a great way to do that too. You dive right in, and you're in the community, and you're out there on your own with other people, and you get to just ruminate on things.
Yeah, I think it's the safest way to start what you're doing. It gives you a little taste, at least, of what it is, and then people can, because it's been proven that almost, I think right now, it's 60% of people that walk a Camino go back to the Camino, do another Camino, and as you always start with the friends, that is the most common, but then you start looking for the more individual when you walk by yourself for many days, and I think that's the part that you start knowing yourself and to love the most, without going to the parts where you endanger your life like you do sometimes. But there's this a piece for everyone. So, and then it came to my mind, you go from college to deciding to walk around the world. How did you prepare for such a journey? I'm like, for people with the Camino, there is guides, there is everything, but also in your case, you don't follow any of the normal routes in the US. You don't do the PCT, you didn't do any of the most common ways. So for anybody that doesn't know the US, I'm like, walking in the US is not that easy. There is places and like there is nothing for many miles. It's not even walking, and also crossing from one side to the other. I'm like, it's just quite difficult. So because it's never been done. Then once you cross to South America, it's all the stuff of danger, but it's more common to see backpackers or everything. But then in your case, you were also traveling with a trolley and with a dog. So something new and different. So how did you set up all of that? How was your research? How was your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so the main thing was I found the routes of two other world walkers that I admired. This guy, Steve Newman, who did it in the 70s, an American, and then Carl Bushby, who's still doing it, a British ex-paratrooper. And basically what I wanted out of the walk was to hit every continent. So I combined their routes. So I have the general idea of the route I want to take. And then the next level you would take is figuring out with the American passport what is the least resistant way to hit every place, so I'm not having to deal with visas all the time. The reason I'm back home right now is to get extended visa for Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And so out of this whole world walk, I'll only need a visa for Algeria, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan. And actually Spain, I need an extension for Spain too. Those
people that don't remember, you have to remember that when you are not from the economic Europe or the US or whatever, usually the average that people give you a visa, if you're a tourist, is from 30 to 90 days. Other than that, you have to go out of the country and come back. And for some of the countries to living in the US, you will have to ask also for a specific visa. And also some of the countries, if you have a stamp from some countries, you cannot get in. So setting up all of that is a big mess.
Yeah, so that was the main consideration after I knew the general route I wanted to take, and because that's the biggest hurdle to get over. So I planned my route based on the visas, and then when I was planning, when I was about a year away, I thought I was getting a cart and I was getting the gear and I was taking these little hiking trips to test things out, and then it came down to just leaving, I guess. I mean, I'm just the kind of person that just needs to start something, because I don't think, no matter how much you get it in your head, it's just not the same as when you start. And, that whole year of planning before I actually left, I'm thinking it's going to be a certain way and I'm going to need certain things. I overloaded. I had so many more things than I ever could have possibly brought or needed. And it was so different, just the daily experience of walking, that like after 3 days, I had thrown out half my stuff, or like given away half my stuff. My cart had broken. I had a map that I thought was gonna like take me all the way down to Florida, this bike route. After 2 days on that, I threw it out and had to find a new route. So it's just you got to go and figure it out when you're on the way.
That's what I love. I usually do like training for, social media and stuff. And I always tell people, what is the best thing to do is plan. But in life is the same. You plan, and then be ready to change it all, because whatever you plan is going to go sideways no matter what. So it doesn't matter if it's the Camino, if it's a vacation or anything, prepare for whatever. And for me, I was laughing because when I did my first Camino, I've been always hiking all my life. And I try to carry the smallest pieces of stuff. I have my jet boil with my dried pasta. And I carry the fucking jet boil from St. Jean de Pied-de-Port all the way to Finisterre for 30 days. And I didn't use it once. And in Finisterre, I cooked the pasta just because I carried it. And so I can imagine something like yours. I'm like, if I was carrying a 10 kilos backpack, how much stuff were you carrying on your first date? How much then you ended up carrying at the end of the first month? I'm like, how many pounds were you less? Like when you start your journey, how many pounds were you maybe carrying over there?
Oh man, I mean, I probably started with like maybe 100 pounds worth of stuff, maybe 80 pounds. It was just insane. I brought books and I brought like Spanish flashcards because I need to learn Spanish before Mexico. Just an insane amount of stuff. And I even had like a camp chair. I thought I was like living in luxury, and all of that just went out the window right away. But I think that's a big part of starting anything, and even the Camino for first timers kind of thing. You have to be able to trust yourself to figure things out. Like, do you trust your basic psychology and your basic sense of logic and common sense? Because if you do, you'll be able to figure out the Camino. Especially the Camino it has a great community. It's very established and safe, and there's restaurants and hotels, everything along the way. But for that first jump, I know it's scary for people. Even just traveling somewhere for the first time is scary for people. But it's basically, do you trust yourself? Do you think you can figure this out? And at the beginning, you're going to bring a camp chair and Spanish flashcards and a Harry Potter book, and then you realize after a couple of days, what are you doing? Throw this out.
It is hilarious because I think that everybody's the same. No matter what, you just the main part is just start. Just go. Walk. That you always will have time to throw things away. And one of the beauties of the Camino is no matter what, you have a town in 20K. In your case, you will have nowhere or maybe where or who knows what, so that's totally different, and you have to prepare for different reasons. But I love the way that you said, Spanish flag cars, the Harry Potter book, because everybody that starts the Camino has a book, has some Spanish, book to learn. They have the map, they have everything. You don't need, at the end, you don't need, and as I said, everybody's Caminos is different. Carry whatever you want, don't judge anybody else. And at the end, if you throw, I seen in the Camino, many things that is hilarious. And like, who the heck carried this all the way from somewhere? Why? So what was the weirdest thing that you carry when you start that nowadays you will say, like, why I was carrying this? Who?
I mean, I think the camp chair. I brought a camp chair, and it was just
one of the big ones with like the two thin collars.
Oh, no, it wasn't that big. It was like a little. It was decent little foldable tube thing.
Okay,
it was pretty clever. So it's small, but it's like, just sit on the ground. I have a tarp. Just sit on the ground. It's fine. You'll be okay. This is so unnecessary.
And like for everybody that doesn't know, Tom was he's still traveling with like one of those running trolleys. He's with Savannah, your dog, that we haven't talked about yet. And then he's traveling year round. So do you go back for Christmas? Do you go back home for any time? Or how are you dealing with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I don't come back for holidays, anything like that. This is the first time I've been back in 2 years. Like I said, it's just basically to obtain the extended Kazakhstan visa and the extended Uzbekistan visa. So I came back mainly for logistical reasons, and also the days were too short in winter in Georgia to walk, any meaningful miles. So that's why I'm back. But going on to Savannah, so I'd walked for 4 months. I gave myself a good runway. You're talking about figuring things out and just kind of diving in and then trusting yourself. But I did give myself a runway of starting in the U.S. So I didn't just go straight to Mexico and start in Mexico and try and figure things out there. I left from Philadelphia and over 4 months walked down to Texas. And over those 4 months, I got in shape. I also figured out what I needed, what I didn't need, how much water I needed, how much food I needed, what food to bring, basically all the little kinks. And then I also realized from sleeping alone in strange places so many nights and having some strange encounters, it would be really nice to have a dog with me. So when I was in Austin, Texas, I went to an adoption center the first day I was there. I spent about 2 hours looking around at these dogs. None of them really connected. And right before I was going to leave, they brought out this puppy, little Savannah, or her name was Lulu at the time. And I adopted her right there. I said, all right, this is my girl. And so Savannah, changed her name, Savannah, has grown up on the road. I mean, this is the only life she's known. It's pretty cool. She went from puppy when we started walking through Mexico. She would walk. I couldn't even get her to walk 20 meters.
Wow.
She was just so fussy. She hated the leash. She was terrified of cars. But little by little, then I got her up to walking a mile, and then I put her in the back of my cart, and she'd sleep, and then she'd walk 2 miles. And then by the time we got into Mexico, she was walking the full 24 miles with me. So 40 kilometers with me. And now, I mean, there's days where we'll do, 50 kilometers.
Wow.
And she's still running around at the end of the day, like inexhaustible. So she's a great companion. And initially I got her for protection. I just wanted something so when I could sleep and she would be listening, or even just to scare people off. But she's not scary at all if you know her, and she's super nice, and she's just a great companion now. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing it without her.
She looks like the perfect fit for you. Yeah, she does indeed. That's what we say, the Camino provides, and in your case, it did provide. So
right.
What we learn from you is if you're going to try to figure out something, figure it out in your country, not before you left, and also get into a country like Mexico. And better to try everything before. So why Philadelphia when you start walking?
Philadelphia is where I'm from, New Jersey. So
You're
I
New Jersey,
started from New Jersey,
okay.
And then crossed the bridge that first day into Philadelphia. And so I just say Philadelphia, it's easier for people.
Okay. Yeah. So then you start walking 4 months in the US, and suddenly you're in Mexico.
That's right.
In 2015.
Correct.
That it was still... I guess, after living in the US, a lot of my friends, when I went there for vacation, they're like, what the hell are you going? I was going to Mexico City because I have a friend there, and they were like, oh, it's so dangerous. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just you Americans have an idea of Mexico. But it is, Mexico is not an easy country. In 2015, there was still a lot of stuff going on. It's still going nowadays. But how was crossing Mexico? I'm like, it's your first country, it's not like you're crossing to Canada or crossing to Chile or Argentina. You were crossing to a country that is kind of like, at least tricky for an American, and also going, as us, we know we are white, we are different. We can be pointed out from run away, and you're going with your dog, with your little trolley, and walking across the country. How was the experience?
Yeah.
How was the...
I mean, it was a total culture shock, because I had traveled to Canada, to London, some islands in the Caribbean, stuff like that. But that was to be totally immersed in a new language, new culture. The stores are different. Just the rhythm, the pacing, everything is different. It was a total culture shock. But at the same time, I was still so excited to just prove myself and prove to everyone else that I could do this. I was jacked up, and I was, willing to charge through a brick wall kind of thing if I needed to. And it was fun to figure out, where to stay and how to talk to people. It was fun to figure out all the little intricacies and see this new place. But all of Central America is dangerous. I mean, it is objectively one of the most dangerous parts of the world. And so the Camino in Spain, I remember, and this also, by the time I got to the Camino in Spain, like I said, I've been walking for 2.5 years. I knew Spain was safe. I would sleep wherever, and I didn't sleep in the what is it, hospedajes?
Yeah, in the albergues or hostales, you were.
The albergues, thank you, I forget, the albergues, it's been a while. And so I didn't sleep at the albergues. I would just sleep, next to the trail or something like that, the camp, and then the pilgrims would wake me up early in the morning, and I had people ask, aren't you afraid of camping? I was, Spain
I'm like,
is fine.
I just crossed the whole, North America, Central America, and South America. I'm like, this is just walking on a path of flowers.
This is someone's backyard, basically. No one's going to bother you. But yeah, in Mexico And in Central America, I had to be very, very aware of where I was sleeping and hiding away. I would really put myself deep into the woods or somewhere, or if I needed to, I'd get a hotel. It was cheap enough. But I would really make sure I was secure at night, and I would stop before sunset. And it's not to say that Mexico is like this terribly, it's not like a war zone,
No,
anything
but
like that.
there's still some areas you shouldn't be sleeping alone in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, even for a
Yeah.
male with the dog and with everything, you can get in trouble. It's not like there's something going to happen, but they will take,
Yeah.
and that's Central America. It can happen anywhere, so you have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and it's better to start off on the side of caution rather
Yeah.
than just recklessness, and then figure out. Now I would have a better sense of when a place is safe and when it's not. But at the beginning, I just took all the precautions I could to keep myself safe at night. But again, like the Camino is such a community, and Spain is so safe that
Yep.
anyone doing the Camino, that's not something they should be
This
concerned
year
about.
in National Geographic, it's been said that Spain is one of the safest countries in the world to travel.
No
So,
way.
when
Wow.
people ask about, also a lot of women ask, how safe is this Spain? I'm like, this is probably the safest place in the world right now. Because as you say, the
Yeah.
community, everybody's walking. And if you're going to do the French way, you are always going to walk with somebody. It's almost impossible to walk alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's a great jumping off point, or even just do the Camino
yeah.
your whole life if you want.
Yeah. And how was the whole, I'm like, I guess going through South America, what was the scariest point and was your happiest point in the whole journey crossing that crazy area? Because you probably
Yeah.
have thousands of stories to tell, I bet. But
Yeah, so many.
what is that one that
Well,
you were like, okay, I'm not going to make it? And that one that you were like, oh my gosh, that there is somebody else out there that is taking care of me, or the family. I'm like,
yeah, I mean, the scariest was definitely like of the Americas. El Salvador was definitely the scariest, just because it was in the middle of a gang war, and I knew it was dangerous. And at the time, it was the most dangerous country in the world when I was going through there. I think on my third day in, I saw, the bodies of a husband and wife who've been shot in the head. But again, that's like relative, because it's even for how dangerous El Salvador was. They say statistically it's about as dangerous as like a medieval city was.
yeah.
So it's relative. It's still safe. Just don't be an idiot and just
And that's what I always,
flaunt
if
yourself
you're
and-
not, if you're not, that you have to remember that every of these countries, there's a war, there's two sides, and you are neither one. Just be careful,
Exactly.
be respectful, and just don't go over trying to be the cocky guy or I'm like, just be careful.
Exactly. So that was definitely the scariest point. There's a couple days. I basically sprinted through El Salvador over like 6 days, and I was on really high alert. And I would wake up like real early to walk to get 30 miles to the next hotel, whatever it was. So that was probably the most tense period. And then one of the greatest, I would say, was, but also very, very challenging, is when I crossed the Andes from
Wow.
Chile over into Argentina. So
Yeah.
I went up to about 5,000 meters. I spent 5 days without any food or water or anything like that. I just whatever I brought with me. And at one point, about 20 miles from the Argentinian border, Savannah and I found this little structure. Like, the only thing, we're up in the Altiplano, it's just desert. We're at 5,000 meters, and there's this huge wind just constantly blowing. And we found this little pipeline thing with some chain link fence around it. I tied the tent to it. I got this terrible night's sleep because my tent is just like covered in sand, and I'm basically sleeping on my side, and the wind is. I slept maybe 2 hours. Savannah dug a hole. She's sleeping in the sand, and this is after 5 days of 5,000 meters, pushing my cart up and down these hills and everything, and not enough food, and trying to be careful with water. And then I pack up that morning, and I start walking, and we have to push through the sand to get to this little road. And on the sand, my legs, like for the first time ever, my legs just gave out on me. And so I just dropped into the sand, and I was in the best shape of my life, but from the altitude, you're not getting enough oxygen, your muscles aren't recovering quite as well, and then also just not getting any sleep, and pushing this at that time was probably maybe 40-kilo cart, something that all loaded down, maybe a little less without the water and everything, but I just collapsed in the sand. But oddly, I knew I was going to get up and be fine. I just needed to like take a minute. And I remember just laying there thinking, like, this is so cool. Like, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere with my dog on this incredible adventure, and I'm staring up at like this sandy mountain and the Altiplano, and I was like, I knew I would get another 20 miles to town. I just need to get the road; it'd be easier. But that was a pretty cool experience.
Wow, it sounds incredible. I'm like, you just want me to leave everything, throw my everything, and just start walking again. That's the problem, that I live in Pamplona and the fucking Camino goes through my house. So I'm like, every morning, I see pilgrims. I'm like, should I just keep going, keep going, keep going?
So much temptation.
I know. So anyways, tell us a little bit about numbers. I'm like, you have walked so far about 3 to 4 years. About you have 1 year that you have to take off doing for your health. But how many miles have you walked? How many, shoes? I seen in your website that you even count how many shoes you and Savannah have used. I'm like, what are any other stupid, numbers you have about your journey?
Yeah, so it's probably been about 29 pairs of shoes, I'd say roughly. I go through them maybe every 600, 700 miles or so.
Tell us, which ones are the best for
Brooks,
you? I'm
Cascadia.
Like, Cascadia?
Brooks, Cascadia, easily. They're the best.
Really?
No question about it. They're awesome.
They don't sponsor you yet?
No, they haven't. But they do send me shoes. Okay. I have a contact in there. But it's not like a sponsor, but I do get to hook up with shoes.
So from here, we are calling, them to sponsor you, because I'm like, what a better, I'm like, if you put just the logo on your website, I'm like, that's what I'd ask you. I'm like, if I'm going to ask somebody about shoes, you are the guy. I'm like, you probably have tried them, all of them. You have tried all different shapes and colors and in all different weather. So I'm like, how many miles?
I'm not good at that stuff. I need to work on my business acumen.
I'm the same way. I'm like, I love all the stories. I'm like, this is what I like to tell people a story, and we need to work on the business side. But anyway, here shout out for sponsors for both the World Walk and the Camino people. So how many miles so far?
So it's been about 18,000 miles so far.
18,000 miles.
Yeah, about 18,000 miles. You figure walking about, I think I average about for the days I'm walking, I average about 15 miles or maybe a little less, maybe like 13, 14 miles a day. And so you cover about 4,000, 4,500 miles a year.
So for the European people, that will be around 140,000 K.
Yeah.
Something around that. We say that the Camino is around 800 K. So just make the math. You have walked the Camino back and forth more than...
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
How does it feel when you look now and you think about all of that? I'm like, how does it make you feel?
I mean, I have moments, it's just daily life, but I'll have moments where I walk the Americas. Like, that is insane. Like, the eighth person, that is insane. I do have that flash every once in a while where I think, like, what I'm doing. But the other part is just, like, it's daily life, and you just need to go about your business.
Just keep going, no?
And exactly, yeah.
One of the things that comes to my mouth is, like, how do you manage, with the normal things that people do? Like, how do you connect to your family? How do you plan your route? Do you have a GPS? Do you have any kind of safety device? Do you call your family every week? How do you manage with your friends? I'm like, how do you do all those little things that, you need to still, even in your journey, you're still connected with normal life, because one day everything's going to go and you are, so how do you do all that little things?
Yeah, thankfully, there's internet almost everywhere now.
Yeah.
It may not be great internet, but you can almost always get enough to send out a text. The only real periods where I was really without any internet was Peru and in Chile when I was in the desert. And I would go maybe 3 days at a time without any internet, something like that. But then there's some cell tower, and GPS works everywhere, so you can download maps and then use GPS, so that's not a problem. But it's very different today doing something like this versus if you did it in the 70s or in the 80s. And now it's just, there's great internet almost anywhere. And Elon Musk is trying to cover the sky with, there's little satellites, and I have internet in Antarctica soon, so...
So I guess you carry just your normal phone. You don't carry a GPS or anything external, or do you?
I carried GPS. I started carrying it in Algeria, but that's just for. So I have a Patreon where I send people postcards and they can track my live location, kind of thing. So I carry the GPS just so people can follow along where I am. But I actually don't use that for any real practical reasons. The phone is enough. The phone is like the ultimate multi-tool. I mean, if you have internet, you can do it.
Everything nowadays,
Everything. You
yeah.
get weather on it,
Yeah.
as GPS. But yeah, just like I said, download the maps. If you have open sky, you have GPS anywhere in the world, even if you don't have internet. So that's an insane tool. It's crazy.
Yeah, we will be putting the Patreon, so if anyone wants to follow you, and help you in your journey, it will be on the notes of the program. So feel free to join and support Tom in his walk. And what I was wondering, when you do such a hike, I seen that you have your tent, you have your stuff. What gear do you carry with you for your normal days?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the basic stuff. Tent. I have a sleeping pad. I guess I guess actually even for the Camino, most people might not even have a tent or a sleeping pad or anything like that. Yeah. But for me, the tent is my home. Most nights I'm in the tent. So I have a sleeping pad, sleeping bag, obviously all that. I have food for Savannah.
And then for a sleeping bag, what kind of sleeping bag? Because I guess, what people don't get is like you are traveling through seasons, through different altitude, and like you carry an all weather, a normal one and a small one. How do you decide? Do you change? Because I guess also probably through the weather.
There's points where it's when I was in Italy, and it was winter in Italy basically, and I didn't have the right sleeping bag, and it was too cold, and so I ended up having to get into a city and buy one, and it still wasn't great. But yeah, like you said, I'm traveling through seasons, so that's like a difficult thing to tackle. But now for this next year, I have a heavy duty one that's just going to see me through all the way to Mongolia. And so I bought it with that express intent.
Yeah, you're going to need it in Mongolia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then in the Americas, I timed it out where I knew that a boat to Antarctica was leaving basically in the Argentinian summer. And so if I left in spring, I could time it out where I was in summer, and then I'm in the temperate zone for a year, and then I was in summer again. So that was all just like, I barely even used the sleeping bag. I was just sweating all the time.
So you traveled with the summer all the way down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I was actually amazed.
A smart move.
Yeah.
And what about clothing? I'm like, how much, in the Camino, I see a lot of people going with a lot of clothing. For me, I'm super minimal. I have my running, shorts that I use for everything because you don't need underwear. They dry and nothing. So I have 2 pairs of running shorts, one for walking, one for staying. And I carry a set of hiking pants just in case. 2 t-shirts and socks. That's the only thing I think you really need when you're in the Camino. But in your case, what was your normal backpack?
Yeah, I mean, it's about the same thing. I have 2 shirts. I use Lululemon because they have silver thread in it, so it never smells. I think they're the greatest shirt.
I think it's an amazing brand. Price value is expensive, but it's totally worth if you're going to invest in your hiking gear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing you don't think about is the smell, and if you're sweating in the same clothes.
How often were you taking a shower?
Yeah.
How often were you because in some places you wouldn't have a river or anything, and you're probably going to stay for a week, 2 weeks maybe?
Yeah, I've definitely gone a week for sure. I carry generally a little packet of baby wipes.
Okay.
And so that makes a big difference.
A little bit, at least for the big stuff.
A little wipe down. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the Lululemon shirts, I have a Smart Wool 250, so it's just a wool base layer if I get up into the mountains or something like that. And then I have a mid layer, so maybe like a 150 wool hoodie or something like that, or fleece. Right now I have a fleece, and then I have the down jacket, and that's generally enough to get me through just about everything with the layering. And like you said, I'm going through seasons with the Camino. You can plan if it's just the summer. You don't need anything. Just wear 1 Lululemon shirt. You're probably good. And then I have a pair of shorts and a pair of pants, rain pants, and that's it. Yeah.
What about Savannah? How is Savannah's backpack?
She doesn't. I carry her food. She's got a bag of food. She's got little rough wear shoes that she hates, but sometimes needs if it's too hot. And then she's got these awesome goggles for.
I know the goggles. Tell us the story about the goggles.
Yeah, they're so cool. I mean, she needed them when we were in North Peru in the desert, and it was really windy. There's a lot of sand blowing, so I put them on her. And then the other times were in Europe, actually, because of the little gnats. There's a lot of bugs in some of these woods, and they were kind of all over her eyes. I put the goggles on so she could see and everything. And that's pretty much her gear, man. And she's got obviously the medication and she got a buff and just to look cool. And
Such a
yeah,
cool
that's
dog.
it.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
about your medication? What kind of stuff do you carry? I'm like, when you think so for such a long journey, I'm like, I guess your first aid kit, it became something that yes, first aid, because
Yeah,
also
it's
your
very simple.
insurance and getting, over any other country, just health is so different than in the US, even in Europe. So what will you carry?
Yeah. I mean, I carry ibuprofen, the main
Yeah.
thing, some gauze just in case. I have just like a very basic health care or health whatever
Yeah.
first aid kit, a very basic first aid kit. I'd say one of the things I use the most is probably just melatonin. I think melatonin is a good thing to have because there's some nights where maybe I got too much sleep the night
Yeah.
before, or I know I need to get a good night's sleep. If my body's aching, I'll just take one of those. I think sleep is probably the main thing, oddly, with health, and the most consistent thing. There aren't that many times where I cut myself or anything like that. And maybe I do, and you cover it up and you bandage it. You have
Yeah.
bandages. But I'd say the main thing for me is just trying to ensure I get a good night's sleep most nights, because then that affects everything else. And when you're walking 8 hours a day, your body breaks down really quickly if you're not sleeping well. So I just try and ensure that.
What about water? Like, did you carry, like a straw? Would you carry, like, what those tablets? Or how did you manage for your? Because at least if you sleep, then it's water and then it's food. So how did you manage
Yeah.
the three of them?
Yeah, I have the Cadian water filter. It's a big,
Okay.
kind of heavier duty water filter that I can carry things of a little bit more luxury and more
Yeah, luxury.
heavier things because I have luxury
Yeah.
because I have the cart. So yeah, I have that water filter, but generally I just get water from towns and I load up. Okay, I have say even in the further stretches, like I had that 5 day period over the Andes, which is I was able to just carry an insane amount of water because there's all saltwater lakes up there. But generally I can carry about 3 days of water,
3 days of
not
water.
easily, but I can carry that and make it work. It weighs things down, but I can do that. Yeah.
What about food? What is your basic, menu? I guess probably a lot of pasta, but
Yeah, a lot of pasta, peanut butter. Love peanut butter. Think it's the greatest thing in the world.
who doesn't? And you're American, so God bless the
Yeah,
peanut butter.
yeah. And then nuts and granola and fruits and it's just dry goods. Just load up on dry goods, and then when I get to a restaurant, just
Yes.
chow down.
Yeah, gets the big piece of meat or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, what lessons have you learned, from your Camino, from your journey? What is the lessons that you have learned, about all the people that you met and all the situations that you have carried out and you have succeeded? Because so far you have succeeded. I'm like, for anybody that is out there, it is such a challenge. But what are the big lessons that you have learned so far?
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons, obviously.
Of course, I can imagine.
I would say the main one is that we're just kind of, I think people are very small and we're creatures of circumstance. Like I could have very easily been born into a shack in the desert in Peru somewhere. But I was fortunate enough to be born into, a fairly well-off family, and I speak a language that you can find almost anywhere in the world. So I think that was the largest lesson, is that I feel very fortunate and that I'm not so far away from being someone else, kind of thing. And then I'd also say a little bit every day goes a long way. I'm only walking 40 kilometers a day. Sometimes I walk 30 kilometers a day, but spanned over the years, I was the 8th person to walk
Wow.
along the Americas, and I've had an amazing adventure just by putting in a little bit of effort every day.
That's incredible. I'm like, yeah, when you say it's just 30K or 40K and the average day of the Camino is 20, and the slowest strollers, they do 10, I'm like, yeah, just every 40K a day. And when, a couple of days I work 30 or I run marathons, so people are like, oh, you run a marathon one day. I'm like, no, you've been walking 40K a day for 365 times 3. And you're like, I'll be just walking a little bit every day and carry with my 40 kilos of backpack, my dog, the food and everything. You make it seem so easy.
Yeah.
But one
Oh,
of the
you get
things,
used to it.
but one of the things, that I love about, and that's one of the things that every time I interview anyone that has walked the Camino or anybody that is having this kind of like of life, is that the smile and the vibe that you have, somebody that has succeeded in their life and you are doing what you like. I guess
Yeah,
for
definitely adds a
you,
spark for
for
sure.
for you is that, no, you decided to do this and this is the way that makes you happy, and that's how you managed to do it. So what is left for Tom and the World Walk? What do you have left to complete your journey?
Yeah, so we have roughly 2 more years. This coming year, walk from Georgia up to Mongolia, and then fly to Australia, walk across Australia, and then fly to the U.S., walk across the U.S., California, back home. So we have 2 more years. Working on a book, working on a children's book. I actually just got this photo book, and I'm seeing the proof of it for the first time. So I got little side projects going on. And but yeah, about 2 more years of walking, so about 2/3 of the way there.
So Mongolia is going to be quite hard. And like for anyone that knows Mongolia is just like, in the middle of nowhere. There's a town here, and in between there is nothing. There's a huge amount of Mongol communities that they are still nomads. So it's beautiful, it's green. What time of the year are you going to be there?
Late end of summer into the fall.
Okay, so it's going to be a
So
good
it's going to be.
weather. It's going to be nice, enjoyable.
We'll see. Hopefully I don't get there too late.
Anyway, we
Yeah.
also, there's a lot of people from the US and from Australia listening to us, so we'll invite all of them to follow your journey. Maybe they can join you for a couple of days. There is,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
that's
If
the
they want to,
beauty.
if they want to follow and tag me when I'm in their area, it's The World Walk across everything: Instagram, Facebook.com, The World Walk. Easy as that.
That's great. And I want to give a little shout out to your sponsors. I guess when you start on a journey like this, I can imagine how much did you save. I'm like, I don't know what kind of jobs you did, but when you are 2019, you don't make that much even in any kind of job. So for you to save, to be able to, don't spend that money with your friends or whatever, is an incredible that I think only that just does, is amazing. But I guess, with the support of your Patreon and your sponsors, if you can tell us a little bit more about your sponsors and why they're sponsoring you, because there's also a reason behind.
Yeah, my sponsor, Philadelphia Sign, they got on board before I even left. Actually, there's an article written and about my motives and why I'm starting this World Walk. And the owner knew Anne Marie, and my friend who passed away, and so he wanted to get on board somehow, and so he donates $1 a mile into her scholarship fund, and so they're great, and he's super nice, and yeah, he just reached out to me and said he wanted to like pair this somehow with the scholarship fund. So it is going. It's a good thing too. For me, it was all selfish. I just wanted to walk around the world. I wanted to do it for myself. And but he kind of broke me out of that mold and said we should pair this too with a scholarship fund. So
I'm
very
like, you did it for
appreciative
yourself, but deep, when you read and when I talk to you, you can tell that it was more than that yourself. You have that reason when you were 17, and I think
Sure.
that's when you have the calling, you have the calling, and I think it's great that both of you met and can do something as amazing as this, because we would like to do scholarships, for the Camino for people that cannot do it, and one of the ideas is of every penny that we make as El Camino people business side, a part is going to go to creating those scholarships. And your friend from up there or whatever it is probably super great about having a friend like you and people that measured with that 1 mile. I'm like, they were going to be every mile you walk, they're like, yoo-hoo, okay, $1 less, yoo-hoo, $1 less. But I can see that the numbers going, and it's incredible. So you talk about your book, a children's book, and what is going to happen when you finish walking? How are your thoughts about that? I'm like, do you know what is going to be there? Or do you
I
don't
don't
even
know.
want to think about it until the
I
day
got 2 more
comes?
years. I got
You
2 more
have to.
years. I'm trying to do some good writing and keep taking photographs, and hopefully it'll turn into something else. But yeah, I got 2 more years hopefully to figure it out.
So do you write while you walk? You write your memoirs? Do you keep a journal? How are you?
Yeah, I keep a journal, write in the journal just about every day, and then I do like weekly or bi-weekly blog post kind of thing, and yeah, I got a lot of things in the fire. Just try and keep writing, keep taking photographs, improve at both of those, and then hopefully something larger will happen. And maybe afterwards, be a professional photographer, travel writer, something along those lines, something where I can keep moving. That's the goal.
Yeah, like with all, with being your major in psychology and philosophy and how many you can walk, one of the things that we do now at the Camino People is that we took people but companies to walk, to develop, kind of like CEOs, kind of like the ideas to do, what a better place to improve yourself. And also for, we always say that people they need it most, and I think it's the people that works in big companies that they need to break out of the company. So maybe you can start doing coaching with them and with us, take all that people and maybe we can take them to walk the wall. I'm like, I think that's the best thing. And the ones that we have tried, we know that, as you say, when you walk, you clean yourself of everything, you get your rest and bottom, and then when you go back to normal life, you feel so much better.
I totally agree. That sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan. We will see, hopefully soon we will have the wall walk and the Camino People walking together. So thank you so much, Tom, from everything. We wish you the best in your journey. As we say in the Camino, Ultrella, that means keeps walking forward, and usually in the old days they will say Et Suseya, that means going up, because as we walk we grow, and in your case we can tell that that's totally true. So best of luck for you and Savannah, and we hope to see you soon one day walking.
Yeah, it's great talking to you, Jose. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to us one more week. Remember, the Camino is closed, but till then, we are here 24/7. Listening to all our podcasts, it doesn't matter if it's in English or in Spanish. Go to our website, check the amazing pilgrim stories, and remember to check our Instagram for those amazing, Camino pictures, Camino stories. And right now, we will be going on live on Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. Remember, El Camino People on Facebook, El Camino People on YouTube. We are going to be doing roundtables with different topics about the Camino and bringing experts from all over the world. And also, if you want to be one, of those experts, or your expertise is in some of the topics of the Camino, or if you want to be interviewed for the Camino podcast, send us a message to peregrino@elcaminopeople.com. We will get in touch with you. Thank you so much again. Be safe out there. Buen camino, Ultrella.